we have to write a little bit more code. So let's think about this extra code that we're going to need to write. So coming back to our flow chart, something that's going to help us think is, well, let's think. If I plug in the USB cable, then what needs to happen? All I need to do is show the cameras and show the connected layer. Okay, that seems pretty easy. Also, if I disconnect the cable, then what do I need to do? Oh, am I on the cameras tab or am I not on the cameras tab? If I am on the cameras tab, then show cameras and not connected. Lastly, if I am not on the cameras tab when I disconnect, all I need to do is keep the status quo. How can we do this in code? Is there an idea that's associated with connecting and disconnecting the cable? Do we have anything that helps us sort of capture that idea, Nate?
We made that LED already. That LED's got to have an event handler, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's the way you should start thinking in Q-SYS. Q-SYS is an event-based control system. And so we need to look around for events that need to be handled. Our USB connection, right, pin USB, has an event handler of its own. And so as we look at our flowchart, what does this event handler need to look like? It's really straightforward. If we have an event, if we connected, we simply need to make sure that we are on the cameras page. Otherwise, how do we get to the connected and the disconnected and the status quo? We just run all of those functions that we already have. It really is as simple as, if I connect the cable, make sure that the var active layer is the cameras layer, and then run func show layer, run func interlock, run func debugger. We're going to run the 3 master functions every time. It's only when we connect the USB that we need to make sure that we also land on the cameras page. Let's write the code for that event handler. We're going to come down. We're going to come down with the rest of the event handlers. We'll shove them in right about here. That'll be fine. The event handler that we are looking to write is controls.pinUSB.eventHandler. As usual, it is a function, and we are going to put in the int. There it is. And we're going to say, if controls.pinUSB.boolean, then what? What do we want to do? In the case that we connect the cable, we want to make sure that var active layer is K layer camera. All of the other situations, including this one, but in every one of the situations, when we disconnect, when we just go to the page, we always are going to want to turn around and run func show layer. We're going to turn around and run func interlock, and we are going to run func debugger in every one of those situations. So hit save, come back to your UCI, and give it a shot. When we connect, look, it automatically flipped pages. If I disconnect, it automatically gives me Gandalf. If I reconnect, it automatically gives me back the controls. This is doing what we want it to do. This is working perfectly. It's beautiful. It's handling every one of those edge cases. In every one of the main cases, if I move away and come back, it's giving me the right page. If I disconnect, it's giving me the correct page while I'm on camera. If I navigate away and navigate back, I'm still getting Gandalf. If I navigate away and I connect the cable, it automatically brings me back and gives me the correct layer. This is working pretty as a picture, exactly the way we want it to do. Wait a second, because I want to show you something. Everything's fine, The code totally works, but I want to point out something. Look at line 92. Notice what I said there. If controls.pin USB.boolean.
Yeah.
It's time for us to learn a new sort of like advanced programming trick. One of the things that we need to do as we want to become better and more advanced programmers is we need to learn to express ourselves in ways that are exact yet abstract.
That's like the perfect analogy of your bow tie. You're expressing yourself in a very exact way that is very abstract.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Here's more of what I mean. My wife teaches pre-K kids, which is great. They're right at the beginning. They're learning to they're right at the beginning of learning how to read and everything. And you may remember that far back if you have children or if you've been around them before. You can remember when they started reading those first books and writing their first sentences, and they might have written things like, Jeff went to the store. Jeff bought Dr. Pepper. Jeff enjoys its deliciousness.
That's also what my kids wrote, which was really weird because they didn't know you at that point.
I know, it was kind of weird. Here's what I'm getting at. Is there anything wrong with those English sentences, Nate?
They are syntactically correct.
They are syntactically correct. However, to the English speaker's ear, we know that we actually never speak that way. In fact, we regularly employ what's called indefinite pronouns. So for example, you would be advised to rewrite that little story as Jeff went to the store. He bought Dr. Pepper, right? Notice what happened there. We substituted the noun Jeff with the indefinite pronoun he. And it has a very clear antecedent within that context. This is a move that should be very familiar to you, especially if you're coming from another context, maybe like JavaScript. In JavaScript, this idea is called this, using this, okay? And it can kind of get out of hand sometimes with this, okay? But the way that we like to use this idea of being abstract but exact in Q-SYS is we actually will pass in our own little variable. We typically pass in the variable and we typically name it CTL. Now, CTL is merely the name of a local variable that we are creating and passing in as an argument to the event handler. And strictly speaking, what we mean is that CTL is, in this case, the control, controls.pin USB. That's what we mean. So inside down here, we can change line 92 from being super verbose to actually making use of that indefinite pronoun. It's the local variable. Does it have to be CTL? No. You literally could use the word this if you wanted to, but CTL is better than this because it's 3 digits instead of 4. Could you use less? You totally could, okay? In Q-SYS, most Q-SYS programmers like to use the indefinite pronoun of CTL because in our brains, CTL makes us think of control. It's a shorthand of talking about the control itself that we are passing into the event handler. And so you will definitely see people use syntax like this, but it doesn't have to be CTL. It could be whatever indefinite pronoun you want to use. CTL is the most common. But this is actually a really big idea that we're going to use a lot as we move forward. The idea of using coding practices that are exact while being abstract. Because that's going to enable us to, in the long run, write scalable code, which is really powerful. So now, actually, we're done. We can be done, we can take a little break, and we can see each other in the next episode.
Go get yourself a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, go get a Dr. Pepper. They're really good.
And they didn't sponsor us.
Unfortunately.